So the name of this story is Learning Sex from a Jackass. So when I was 14 years old, my father's friend Lonnie I had met, and I already had the horse disease. I'd been jumping fences on the way to school, riding horses without permission since I was 9 years old. I didn't care who they were, if they bucked or they ran, I didn't care. I was just into this horse thing. So then I got this opportunity when I was 14 to meet this guy Lonnie and then work on his ranch, which was a loose affair, meaning that every time I showed up, I went to work and then got fed and slept in a bunkhouse, and perfect for a 14-year-old. So right around that time, Lonnie had learned a need to make some money, and that was mules. Lonnie got into the mule business. So a mule is a cross between a mammoth jackass. So you know a donkey, but they make big donkeys. And he drove all the way to Missouri to buy this donkey. And so the big donkey breeds with a horse female, and that's what produces a mule. And this has been known for thousands of years as an extremely superior product. That the brains and the temperament of a donkey mixed with a horse is the best thing, to have around if you have work to do. So Lonnie had just started in. He had driven down to Missouri and got this mammoth mule whose name was Lance. And so he had started in on the mule business. Well, Lonnie went to the horse auction every week, and he never came home empty. He was already making a lot of money on the horses because he was a true cowboy, and he had a really good eye for horse flesh, and he knew what he was looking at. So he would pick up a horse, bring it home, and we would ride it for a month. And I was 14. He was, hey, you want to ride this horse? I was like, yeah. I would get on anything he would catch and saddle. And so I'm riding these horses around, and we would go up on the desert on these rides, and it was just a dream come true for me. And then I'm out there with my dad, on a Saturday, but pretty soon my dad's dropping me off for the week and dropping me off on the weekends, and I want to go to Lonnie's, all the time. So Lonnie picks up this mammoth jack, and now he's in the mule business. So I'm 14 and super innocent, super religious, and I don't really, if you said, what do you know about sex, I would have just blushed and walked away. I didn't know nothing. But one day, Lonnie asked me, he yelled, Steve, can you come and help me? So I went over there, ran around the back of the barn, and there's Lance. And this was my first introduction to a couple of phrases, and that was like hung like a donkey and donkey dick. I mean, this little donkey had a penis about just longer, 2 feet long, looked to me, probably more like 18 inches, but that's where the phrase donkey dick came from. I mean, these donkeys, man, you're hung like a donkey. I mean, you got something. So I turned around, but Lonnie needed help because this mare was giving him trouble. And so other than breeding his own mares, and Lonnie could make a living producing 20 or 25 mules a year. If he produced 25 good mules a year, that was a living. And he would sell them to the Forest Service. And he was a really smart guy, so he didn't sell them anything that wasn't top quality or a good mule. On a mule ranch, what that means is you've got mares coming and going because if they don't get pregnant, they go. And he would go to the auction, so he'd pick up geldings, but we would just ride them and make them good horses and then make money off them. So he never rode a damn decent horse on the ranch, ever. All just shittiest pregnant horses in the world. But he was going and he was going to the auction all the time to find mares that would produce good donkeys. And some of them lasted on the ranch the whole time, that I knew about it, 20 years. And then they would get pregnant. The terms were, of course, they would get pregnant, and then they would raise a good mule, a good-looking mule that had good sense to it. So that was the mule business. And because of that, there's 30 mares on the place, and there's 1-year-olds, 2-year-olds, 3-year-olds, and 4-year-olds. And so, there's 150 or 100 plus horses on this ranch all the time. And then the horses he just knew that he could fix and make money off of. So I would show up and I would get on anything he would saddle. He loved me for that. And he knew that I had a good attitude toward him. I wasn't mean or resentful toward him at all. I was loving the whole thing. So he calls me behind the barn this day, I need help. So I go back and there's this donkey dick, which I'd never seen before. I can't even believe it. And he needs help, holding this mare, and Lance. So here's the real lesson. I walk back there. I can't remember the first time, second time, 20th time. But these mares are extremely specific about when they want to be bred. They do this thing that's called winking. They wink and they squirt and they wink, but sometimes it was easy. I need to also tell you this. Lonnie wasn't just breeding his own mules. After a certain point, Lance got to be famous for producing high quality mules. Beautiful, thoughtful, smart mules. So pretty soon Lonnie's breeding Lance out. He's renting Lance out to breed, and it was $500. Well, $500 is a lot of money back in those days. And so the mares would show up. The owner always said, that she was ready, but they didn't know anything. Lance knew everything. Lance knew they were not ready. So then Lonnie would make some money boarding the mares for a while, and the people may or may not get pissed off. But so this one time, I can't remember if I was there or not, but these mares were touchy, man. These mares in heat, ready to breed. I was getting an education of a lifetime, and I'm 14 years old, and I don't know anything about sex. So these mares would come in, and if they were not ready, Lance was just a jackass. He was a jackass paid to fuck mares. That was his job. It was just another day on the job. So Lance was like, next. And, oh God, these mares were just mean as fuck to Lance. And they would turn around and threaten to bite him. They were tied up, and Lance would come in. And finally, I can't, like I said, I can't remember if I was there or not, but some mare kicked Lance right in the fucking nuts. And you're kicking a money-making donkey in the nuts. So then Lonnie's getting smarter and smarter about this. He built a breeding stall. And this breeding stall, first of all, it raised Lance a little bit, because some of these mares, some of them were small, they were perfect, but some of them were tall. And then we were starting to breed. We got a reputation. Lance was just awesome. And we got a reputation, so we'd get thoroughbreds in there, and they were big. And so Lance would have this little raised stall, and this stall had a kickboard on it, so these mares couldn't kick Lance anymore. After they kicked him, that one time, I'm telling you, man, he went for a no-fuck vacation for a long time. And, that's a lot of money. And we had to just encourage him. So Lonnie's learning, what does that mean? What does it mean to encourage a jackass to breed? So that's the second part of this. So Lonnie finds out that instead of making Lance get the mare ready to breed, instead of doing it that way, that you could get a stud to get the mare ready to breed and then just sneak Lance in. Like sneaking Lance into the bedroom at the last minute. So then he's at the auction every week anyway, so he would just find these pitiful, stupid studs that everybody had given up on and never grew up, and 2 or 3 years old. And then Lonnie feared no horse. He feared no horse. He had this down. And he also just managed them. He didn't train them. So he would just make this stud manageable. So now the stud kills me. The stud would come in and tease the mare until she was winking, and he did it properly. Not like a fucking jackass. I mean, he would bite her neck and tease her, and then maybe Lonnie would say, maybe tomorrow. So the stud would come in and tease her tomorrow. And then at the last minute, the stud, we just tie him off. And this is why it took, 2 or sometimes 3 guys to do this. Then the stud would just get tied off, and he's screaming and squealing, and he's all into it. And then the mare's winking, and she's all ready. And then we'd sneak Lance in there for 500 of the easiest bucks Lonnie ever made. So, and then with the kick plate, I mean, we're getting really good at this. Then, whoever told Lonnie about the teaser, which is common knowledge, but there was no internet back then. We lived in the middle of fucking nowhere, and we didn't have books, we didn't have nothing. So then Lonnie finds out that you can have also, if you want to get Lance ready, so you got the mare and the stud, making out in the box. She's tied up in the box, and the stud's on the side of the box. And then Lance is in the back. Well, Lance loves, who does Lance love? Lance loves a calm, young mule, female mule. So everybody knows that mules are infertile. Mules don't breed, 1 out of a billion. But mules are sexy. They have sex. You turn your back on them, they're fucking each other like you can't believe. And so they're sexy, but they just don't produce offspring. So then Lonnie finds out that you can get the stud with the mare, and then we bring in a little 2-year-old mule filly next to Lance, and then it's just a fucking orgy. It's a fucking orgy. And I'm 14 years old. So the stud is getting excited, and his dick is out. And he's not even embarrassed by Lance's dick, which is 3 times his size. Then the little doll comes out for Lance, and then all of a sudden we pull a little switch, and right at that point where anybody would fuck anybody. And then $500. You can't. The smile on Lonnie's face wasn't because he was a pervert, man. I mean, this was all business. But I'm just a kid. Watching this for a long time. 14, 15, 16, 17 years old, 18. I mean, masturbation is out of the question in my church and religion. I never even looked down to see how I compared with Lance. I just didn't even, that just wasn't an option. So, what is the effect of learning sex from a jackass? So, here's what happened to me. Draw a triangle, and then this triangle is pretty simple. On one point, you have sex, which I learned that, sex, it was pretty exciting. Lonnie was excited, Lance was exciting, the stud was exciting, the mares were exciting. I got excited. But I did learn from Lance about love and friendship. I mean, Lance just couldn't perform if these mayors turned around and told him to, they were going to fucking kill him, or that he was a fucking jackass, or that they hated his fucking little 900-pound guts. That donkey dick would shrink so fast you wouldn't even believe it. It would shrink like it had just gone from 100 degrees to 40 below. I mean, Lance just couldn't deal with that kind of pressure. He couldn't. So what he needed was the stud to do the work, his beautiful partner to encourage him. He needed this triangle of sex, love, and friendship. So then I grew up, and all of a sudden I'm an adult, and I've learned, how to have sex from a jackass for many years. A profitable jackass, someone who's, good at his job. And I, get married, and that triangle is what I built. The triangle is friendship, sex, and love. If one of those isn't there, I just wither like Lance on a cold day. So, I mean, I'm a, tall guy and mouthy and confident, and God, I could make another video of all the opportunities I've had in my life to have sex, and then I didn't do that because I was like, shit, I mean, I don't love this person, and they're not a friend. One of them had 2 out of 3. My fiance's mom tried to jump me on the couch at her house, and I really liked this woman. I liked her. And she was the sexiest woman I had ever seen in my life. Me and a lot of guys. But she wasn't my friend. I didn't really understand what she wanted. And so I didn't do anything. I sort of, 40 degrees below zero, lanced it up. And I've done that many, many times. I don't know if that's a regret or if I'm going to get a trophy for that, shriveled dick trophy for that someday. But that's the outcome of that. I can't even if I'm in a relationship and I really, really love someone, and I've loved them for years and been married to them. So sex, yes. Love, I love them. But the friendship, if it's we're not exactly friends right now for some reason because, we're fighting about something or somebody's mad about something, then the triangle isn't complete. I never have make-up sex. No, I make up, and then the triangle is complete. Love, sex, friendship, and then I can, do the best I can at lancing it up.